What happens when a poor farmer's son rises to rule the world's most populous nation with an iron fist? This is the story of Mao Zedong, a man who promised equality but left behind chaos, famine, and fear. Mao was not just a leader, he was a force of nature, ruthless, cunning, and unstoppable. His rise changed China forever. Mao Zedong was born in 1893 in Shaoshan, a small farming village. His father was a strict, wealthy farmer, while Mao often rebelled against authority, even from a young age. Unlike most village boys, Mao preferred reading and daydreaming about heroes and warriors from Chinese history. This desire to be different planted the seeds of his ambition. As a teenager, Mao became fascinated with revolutionary ideas. He read about Western philosophies, revolutions in Europe, and the collapse of old empires. The young Mao began to believe China needed a new kind of leader, someone who could destroy the old system and build a new one. In his early 20s, Mao joined student movements and protests. China was weak, humiliated by foreign powers, and ruled by corrupt warlords. Mao saw revolution not just as a dream, but as a necessity. His fiery speeches made him stand out from the crowd. In 1921, Mao became a founding member of the Chinese Communist Party. At first, he was just a minor figure, overshadowed by intellectuals and Soviet-trained leaders. But Mao had something they didn't: the ability to connect with China's peasants, the forgotten majority. When the communists allied with the nationalists to fight warlords, Mao thought unity was the answer. But in 1927, Chiang Kai-shek betrayed them, massacring thousands of communists in Shanghai. Mao barely survived, realizing that power could only be taken by force, never given freely. Mao fled to the countryside, rallying peasants to his cause. He taught them guerrilla warfare, ambushes, traps, and surprise attacks. Unlike traditional armies, Mao's fighters blended with the villagers. His Red Army was small but deadly, and soon his name spread across China. In 1934, the nationalists launched a massive attack, forcing Mao and his army to flee. What followed was the legendary Long March, a brutal 6,000-mile retreat through mountains, rivers, and deserts. Thousands died, but Mao emerged as the unchallenged leader of the communist movement. During the Long March, Mao's philosophy became clear: power grows out of the barrel of a gun. He believed peasants were the true engine of revolution, not the cities. This idea would define Chinese communism for decades. When Japan invaded China in the late 1930s, Mao and Chiang Kai-shek formed an uneasy alliance. But while Chiang's forces took the brunt of Japan's attacks, Mao used the war to strengthen his army and expand communist control in rural areas. After World War II, the fragile alliance shattered. The communists and nationalists plunged into full-scale civil war. While Chiang had foreign support and advanced weapons, Mao had the loyalty of millions of peasants. Slowly but surely, Mao's Red Army began to crush the nationalists. In 1949, Mao declared victory. Standing on the gates of Beijing's Forbidden City, he announced the birth of the People's Republic of China. After decades of bloodshed, Mao had finally seized absolute power. Once in power, Mao wasted no time eliminating rivals. Landlords, intellectuals, and political opponents were silenced. His rule was absolute, and dissent was crushed with brutal efficiency. Mao was not just a leader, he was a godlike figure. His image filled posters, songs praised his wisdom, and millions carried the Little Red Book of his quotations. To criticize Mao was to risk your life. In 1958, Mao launched the Great Leap Forward, aiming to transform China into an industrial giant overnight. Villages were forced into communes, peasants melted down pots to make steel, and food production collapsed. The result was one of the deadliest famines in history. Between 1959 and 1961, famine swept across China. Crops failed, grain was exported to maintain Mao's image, and millions starved. Some resorted to eating bark, grass, even worse. Historians estimate up to 45 million deaths, a tragedy Mao never admitted responsibility for. After the famine, Mao's influence declined as other leaders criticized his policies. But Mao was not done. He plotted a comeback that would shake China once again: the Cultural Revolution. In 1966, Mao called on China's youth to rise up and destroy the four olds: old customs, culture, habits, and ideas. Millions of young Red Guards answered his call, unleashing chaos across the country. The Red Guards turned on anyone accused of being counter-revolutionary. Professors, artists, even loyal communists were humiliated, beaten, or killed. The nation plunged into violence and paranoia. Despite the chaos, Mao remained untouchable. His image grew even larger. To question him was unthinkable. China was no longer ruled by laws or institutions. It was ruled by Mao's will alone. By the 1970s, Mao's campaigns had destroyed China's education system, shattered families, and left deep scars across society. Yet millions still worshipped him, blinded by propaganda and fear. In 1972, Mao shocked the world by welcoming U.S. President Richard Nixon to Beijing. The once isolated dictator was now playing global politics, reshaping the Cold War balance. In his last years, Mao grew frail, but his grip on China remained tight. Behind the scenes, power struggles began, but no one dared challenge him openly. He remained a symbol of fear and loyalty until the end. On September 9, 1976, Mao Zedong died. Millions mourned, crying hysterically in the streets. For some, it was the end of an era. For others, it was a chance to breathe again. His death left a divided legacy. Mao's ruthless rise transformed China into a communist superpower, but at a terrible cost. Tens of millions dead, culture destroyed, and generations scarred. Even today, his face still appears on China's money, a haunting reminder of the man who changed history forever. From a village boy with a dream to the architect of a revolution that reshaped the destiny of a billion lives. Mao Zedong's story is one of vision, sacrifice, and relentless struggle. But this is just one chapter in the great book of history. Many more untold stories of leaders, empires, and revolutions await you. Subscribe now and step with us into the echoes of the past, where history is never forgotten, only reborn.